Pew pew! Hello there. Well, like lemmings to a cliff, we are all marching head on towards E3, which is coming up next week. No, we can't.
We've got to go head on.
No, the other ones are going too, so we got to keep on going. Maybe we'll jump off a bridge together. I'm here with Max Scoville, and we're going to talk about what we're anticipating, hoping, and looking out for from Sony, who I think in terms of that core gaming community,
people are feeling pretty good about that.
They feel very strong. I can't tell how much of it is actual affection towards Sony and how much of it is they're not called Microsoft, and so we're giving them a warm embrace.
Well, I mean, Sony did the right thing when they revealed the PS4 by showing off games besides sports and gun.
Yes.
And television. So they also haven't shown us the console itself.
Nope.
So whereas Microsoft showed off the whole thing, and Sony has a lot to show off, and a lot to talk about.
A lot of specifics. I mean, they had the benefit of coming out in February, where the expectation that you would get kind of those cold hard facts wasn't as strong as it was from Microsoft, less than a month out from E3. I think that helped Sony, who also not allowing interviews following their press conference, didn't get themselves into the same kind of messaging morass that Microsoft was in. But then again, there's a lot that's less clear about Sony. And I think one of the key things is what happens with online, what happens with Gaikai. There's a lot of cool ideas, some of which were also talked about by Microsoft, like the idea of someone else joining your game and taking control of your gaming experience.
Yeah, and there's also the one thing I don't think they mentioned it really at all, was Vita compatibility during their big thing.
I mean, there was some, the game Knack, that's from Mr. Sony.
I heard a little rumor that some PS4 devs said that all PS4 games are requiring remote play for Vita.
I mean, I haven't heard that myself. That sounds unfortunately very, very in line with things that Sony has done. I think the 6-axis requirement of the PS3 generation, I think there's still something of a hangover for a few people out there about that kind of integration. Obviously, Vita, not as hard, assuming that it can just kind of somehow manage to stream the game. But it's interesting. They are currently seen as the game console that is for people who love games. Kaz Hirai himself is echoing
which is kind of weird, because that's a big switcheroo from the last time around.
Yeah, because Sony actually owns all like that music and movie stuff that's out there. I think with that in mind, what are the games? I mean, Microsoft is saying they have 15 titles. They could show all 15 at their press conference. What could we potentially see from Sony that would give them a leg up?
We know for a fact we're going to see Destiny. That big reveal is going to be happening at the PS4 press conference. That's not going to be an exclusive, as some people might have speculated about the PS4.
Bungie has said that this thing is going.
So that'll be going everywhere. It wouldn't really surprise me that much to see Mr. Kojima show up and show off some Metal Gear Solid 5.
There is a long-standing relationship between obviously Kojima Productions, also Square. That was made apparent at the painfully apparent at the PlayStation 4 announcement. So who knows if we'll get more love from these storied Japanese developers.
We're thinking a new Final Fantasy. Were they teasing that a little bit?
Yeah, or maybe they'll just follow that Final Fantasy VII remake that they got everyone all like hot under the collar from all those years back. We'll see something of that. I think the game that many people would like to see, and there's so much uncertainty about it, is The Last Guardian. Whether or not it exists, it would seem logical that, hey, this is, for that core base, those Sony lovers, that it would be at E3. There are some reports that it's listed to be shown, but Sony is being very, very coy about it.
Now, as for that's all people we think there's a possibility of us seeing. What about EA?
Yeah, that would be.
Yeah.
And that's more from almost a business standpoint. They were wholly absent, and maybe that was to allow Activision to come on stage with Destiny at the February event. But EA has sports, FIFA, which has been the cornerstone of the PlayStation success in Europe this generation, where you have not seen, you've seen sales parity that's close to that of Microsoft in the European continent. We already know aspects of FIFA are now exclusive to the Xbox One. It would at least be nice to think that there is still some type of positive relationship going on between EA and Sony, although I have heard stories that make me think that things are not as good as they should be.
Yeah, I kind of get that vibe. It's weird. I mean,
not inviting one of the largest publishers to your stage that can be very telling of something else happening out there. Now, in terms of third-party support, we're also hearing stories that Microsoft is going after third-party exclusives. Sony has always been very good with first-party exclusives, and they were getting weaker and weaker with even sort of multi-platform releases that found their way over to the PlayStation 3. I mean, what would you like to see in terms of either an exclusive or just like, hey, if you're going to play it on one console, you'll be playing on this console as well.
Yeah, it's been so long since Sony's had that kind of
Yeah,
interest. I'd love to see something from Ubisoft. I'd love to see something from Square-Enix. They did some really good stuff in the last generation. They've got that Murdered Soul Suspect.
Yeah. A Western game with a name that sounds like it would be the subheading of a Final Fantasy title because it makes no sense.
Right. There's also a possibility of is that a new Deus Ex they got in the works? Maybe they sort of were teasing
Maybe,
that.
There's. I don't. Yeah. Well, once again, it'd be just great to know that assurance that we're going to get those games on the PlayStation and you're not missing out because they're exclusive or they have an early advance exclusive on the Xbox console.
Yeah.
But I think you're also right. More and more first-party exclusives. Could we see an Uncharted 4? Could we see some of the older franchises from Sony sort of make an appearance? I think if they have that strong catalog of games, they're fulfilling gamers' expectations that that this is the gamer-centric console, whereas Microsoft's is the one that's more entertainment.
At the same time, though, the fact that Microsoft got all of the boring stuff out of the way with their reveal, there's a pretty good chance we're going to have like a good 10 minutes of the PlayStation 4 being kind of shown off just as a box, and then maybe a little bit of time spent on some of the PlayStation Move.
And the thing is, I think we're going to see a lot of Vita attention and a lot of PS3 attention. So that I would not be surprised in the course of this press conference if we're going to have to wait a little bit before we get to what everybody is in attendance for, which I assume includes you if you're watching us yammer on like this. We will have so much regarding not just the Sony press conference, but the Microsoft, the EA, and the Ubisoft press conference, as well as Nintendo's little tea party on the Tuesday morning of E3. That's on June 11th. And then, of course, we're going to have more demos, more interviews, and more just roundtable discussions of everything that's happening in the game industry all through the week of E3. That starts June 10th. Just keep on coming back to Rev3 Games because we're going to be there talking about it.
I'm excited.
He's excited.
I'm excited. You're terrified.
I'm terrified. I need my Geritol.
God, look at that vein. It's just
exactly.
gonna burst.
It's a throbbing. See how big it gets next week at E3.